the fucking roof! Ladies and mungais, welcome to another session on the rooftop with an array of possibilities. We've got Gordon's dry gin and whiskey. What do you feel like? Cari, Lady Cari, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we recently met under bizarre circumstances. You photographing me with a dog on a bike.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was Erica. Yes.
Erica, beautiful dog. She was a much better model than me.
You did great.
So what was the deal with that calendar, and what are you doing with it? And
that calendar is for BARC. It's a charity here that rescues dogs and cats and other animals in Bali. And it's our calendar for 2018. So you are Mr. November.
Mr. Anemic November.
Yeah.
And where's it going? And is it, as people buy it, the money's going towards
Yes. So all the proceeds are going back to the animals. It's $20. And you can buy it in Australia, New Zealand, and we can ship it. And also you can buy it directly here in Bali.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's start with a drink, because I think we're both thirsty from this climb up to the rooftop. We're like, I don't know what's more dangerous, the drop or the fireflies or whatever's going on attacking our faces. But here we go. What do you feel like?
Gin.
Let's go, the gin. So in the meantime,
yes.
When did you first rock up to Bali shores, and why did it grab you, and what made you stay, and where's the love come from? Tell me about the love.
I came here on holiday almost 3 years ago, and just kind of fell in love with everything, and decided that I really didn't want to be an adult anymore. So I wanted to move, and decided 4 months after my holiday, I was packed up from Chicago and came on over.
So what were you doing in Chicago? I mean, why you didn't want to be an adult anymore? I totally understand that behaviour. I think that's why most of us moved to Bali.
Yeah.
But what was the transition? I mean, what were you doing in Chicago, and why were you happy to let that go?
Well, in Chicago, so I lived in Chicago and Milwaukee, which is above Chicago for anybody out there who doesn't know. The Midwest of the United States. Excellent. Thank you. Years I was a therapist in mental health and addiction. So
speaking of addiction, let's regress.
yeah, this is good.
Yeah, we all have our issues.
Thank you.
And okay, so how did you get into that? I mean, that's a pretty major line of work to be involved in, and
yes,
and I can imagine you've got a billion stories in terms of characters you've met and processes to help those people.
The counseling field just attracted me. I don't know why, how, what, but I got in it, and the clients really kind of got to me. It's not an area of counseling that most people want to go into with addiction, because you have a high criminal rate, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with that area. But I really gravitated towards them.
And is this due to personal circumstances beforehand, or you knew people in that were having issues that you started helping out, and then you decided to move into a real professional part of it, of the field? Or
I do think that addiction isn't that far from people. Even
from anyone.
Yeah, it's really not that far from somebody's personal life. So I think it's out there, and a lot of people do know someone who's struggled. And I just really felt that I could, sympathize for them and be there for them. And it's not for everybody in the therapy field.
Sure.
As I got further into it, I continued with my education and credentials, and ended up working in some clinics, some outpatient clinics, and also residential. And I have gender-specific male and female training. And I enjoyed both. I enjoyed working with both, and I think it was quite an experience, but eye-opening, but also draining.
I imagine. I mean, I guess addiction is one of those things where there's so many different perspectives that people have on what addiction is. I mean, and we're also, like you're saying, where everyone's pretty close to addiction. You're talking more close to knowing someone that has addiction.
Right.
Well, I guess everyone is pretty close to addiction in terms of themselves. I mean, everyone's kind of got a leniency towards being addicted to something. It's just the line, that social line of how much it affects your daily life, how much it affects your willpower to be motivated and creative and move forward in life, and whether it's draining you or whatever.
And sometimes it hits them and they have no idea that it's coming. It's not necessarily, the low-income person. It's the soccer mom, who got in a car accident. Who got addiction to prescriptions. And it can be anything along those lines that most people don't think about. And suddenly, she's, getting in trouble, and has some sort of court case coming up that has to do with her addiction. And, nobody knew that was going to happen. And nobody sets out for it. But again, I think if you can open your mind up and allow yourself to, feel for them, then you can help them.
It's got to start with empathy, definitely. Yes. I mean, all around, doesn't it? Like from the personal level to all the way up through to the government, it has to be. It has to relate to empathy.
Yes. Rehabilitation.
And what have you found as the biggest? Could you sort of classify what the biggest antidote is for addiction? Is it literally connection itself? Do you think
support?
It's support? Yeah,
support.
Yeah, I mean that's a massive factor. I think a lot of people focus on the actual chemical addiction itself in terms of we have to remove that chemical from the person to save them from that chemical, because that chemical has overtaken their mind, overtaken their brain, and they've turned into a different person. But from just people I've known and through my own experiences, I think it's you have to replace that with that exact thing: support, love, people surrounding them and showing them that there's hope and connection with society too.
Right. To not feel outcast. To feel accepted that you're not alone and that you can succeed in a new chapter of your life. Yeah,
sure. So, I remember I was reading about. I remember these old ads years ago of the like the anti-drug campaigns, and it was showing the mouse in the little cage, and it was showing like a little water dispenser, one that was just water and one that had cocaine in it, and the mouse went to the one with cocaine and just kept going back and back to it until it died. And that was the example of, if you touch this, you won't stop until you die.
Right.
But then a experiment that was also done, which they didn't obviously show, was they got a whole bunch of mice in a situation where they set up this incredible, beautiful mouse home, like everything they could possibly want. A little community of mice. They were all happy, and then they did the exact same thing. They put the two dispensers in, one with the cocaine and one with just water. And what they found is that the mice, when they tried the cocaine, they didn't go back to it because they didn't have any need to sort of fill a hole. Yeah, and I think that says a lot when you're surrounded by family and support and friends and network, that you don't turn to those things as easily. But so what's a standout sort of situation that you got involved in with that whole line of work? Were there any scary moments? Were there any hugely fulfilling moments? I'm sure there were.
Yeah, I mean, there's always fulfilling moments. Seeing somebody graduate from a program or stay sober for, even a week. It doesn't, I don't want to say that success was measured from, lifelong sobriety. Success can be measured very small for most people. And that's, I think, the milestones you have to focus on rather than the long term. And, so I was always very excited when somebody, could make it a day, a week, a month.
Yeah, sure.
Because that showed me that they were willing to do it.
And are they, I guess the hardest thing I imagine in that situation would just be the line between friendship and being a counsellor and somebody looking after, and where, do you have contact with these people still? Do you sort of check in with them even now once you've left? Or?
No, that's...
Do you have to have quite a solid line there?
Yeah, you do have to remain, you have to have a set of boundaries, and it's not just, on a professional level, but it's kind of also mandated through law.
Yeah, sure.
So that you can't.
You can't make the law up as you go.
So it's not to say I haven't ran into people after they finish the program, but I respect the fact that it's public areas then, and you treat them with respect, but you don't acknowledge them that they were a part of a treatment program unless if they would like that.
Yeah, sure, unless they bring it up.
Yeah.
And did you find that in the States, did you have many issues yourself with the way programs were run, or the funding that were given to them, or the attitude that came from sort of higher up through the government in terms of what you were doing? Was that
yeah,
constant issue?
Yeah, that's always a big talking point with financial, like what is being designated where for budgets on a federal level as well as state levels. They don't want to necessarily put a lot of money towards it, but they also don't want people to continue, to go into hospitals, to go to jail, and all that. So it's a balance, and I don't think they found it yet, unfortunately.
What do you think would be the next step in finding that balance?
At this point, I don't know. I mean, at this point, we have an administration that isn't really for rehabilitation in the sense that the last administration was. And I think that's something that is hurting a lot of people right now.
Well, it would. The bottom line, a lot of people would be hurt and suffering. Absolutely. And I mean, obviously with this massive awareness of wanting to help people that you have, you're now here, and now you've shifted your focus somewhat. And I wouldn't have even bothered telling you to be careful climbing on the roof, considering what you've been doing for the last month or so, which is hanging out in a danger zone. So you've been hanging out around Mount Agung.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
just a bit of volcano peering, or
nothing special. No big deal. Yes, so I think it started back in September. Mount Agung went pretty quickly up in levels, and it hit level 4. From
the first warning of the volcano being active again, how long was it? I can't remember. It was only a couple of weeks, right? Or even less.
Yeah, it went very quickly. And so there was a call for help from BARC, as well as a couple other charity organizations throughout Indonesia and here in Bali. And we came together, and because there was such a quick exit of evacuation in 27, I believe, villages, and as you know, here in Bali, people have scooters. They often take their whole family on a scooter. And so when they are evacuating, they're not able to take their dog or cat or pigs or cows. So it became a crisis that we wanted to help them and get up there and make sure that we evacuated any animals that were in need of immediate evacuations, ones that may have been injured in, the haste of everybody going. We encountered, a few animals that had broken legs already, probably, hit by a scooter with people being scared. There was some mama dogs with puppies that obviously, if the volcano erupted, that, they weren't going to be able to run. And then there was just some really unhealthy and hurt, medically hurt, dogs that needed to go. How
do you even begin to start a plan? When a whole area, a huge area, has been evacuated and people are running and getting the heck out, just in case something goes wrong. How do you even start to form a contingency plan for getting in and finding animals and feeding them? And you're going area by area, you're gridding it out, or?
To be honest, it was BARC's first time dealing with a crisis like that, and we were working with other organizations like JAN, who has dealt with crisis, but they've often gone in after as well. So this was something that was unique for everybody this time, that we were all going in before. and trying to make sure that we were there to help before there was any sort of devastation. Realistically, we knew we weren't able to evacuate thousands of abandoned dogs, but what we could do was, be able to evacuate ones that needed it. And so it was kind of triaging.
Okay, sure.
But then also be able to be there for them, as it was a complete ghost town in many villages. And after a while, they run out of rubbish. To scavenge through, and they're going to need something else.
They would all be like quite deeply disturbed just from losing their owners too. I mean,
right?
I mean, that
scared. You could tell a lot of them were very scared, and a lot of them were still protecting their home. Bali dogs are amazing. That they are extremely loyal, and they protect their territory. And
they really are a different breed, aren't they, Bali dogs?
They are. They are an amazing breed that is one of the oldest in the world.
Yeah, I find that, like you said, they're really protective of their area. I mean, if you walk down a gang, the whole pack will come out. And they could be, like obviously in the West, you can't have dogs out of your house. They've all got to be tagged. If a dog goes outside the front yard, it's like, bang, it's going to be grabbed by the pound, or someone will report it.
Yeah.
But here it's like, it's kind of, people sort of take on that thing of, well, it's not my right to lock my dog in. But it seems to be more like this is the dog's space, and I feed it and let it come and go as it wants. Right. Yeah. It's the general feel. It's almost like the dogs were here first, and
very much so. Yeah. Very much so. It's hard when I hear some people complain about the dogs here, because the dogs have been here forever, and they are a part of Bali.
Yeah, and they're hardened, and they're hardened as nails. But they'll come out and bark and protect their territory. But there's something about them; they're so sweet once you get to know them.
Yes,
if you put your hand out and get down and then show them you're not a threat, especially if you're visiting a friend or whatever, and they realise you're a friend of that friend. Yeah. The love they give to you, like, they just turn into total softies. And you're like,
they'll roll over, be submissive, wait for a belly rub, and that's what they want. They want to be loved. They want to be cared for. They want somebody to treat them nicely. Again, they're roamers at heart, and they're very territorial also. But they, at the same time, they crave that. Yeah. They crave the attention, and they crave the love.
I mean, for a lot of us, we see that good side of the animals. I've got friends with dogs. I go to the beach, you see all the dogs running on the beach, and they're having this wonderful time. And so, I'm often just thinking these dogs have got the best life ever. But I guess you're seeing a lot more devastation. And I mean, what sort of predicaments, outside of just the volcano situation, what sort of predicaments are you seeing dogs in where they desperately need help? Is it that they're locked up without any care and not being fed, or?
Yes, we recently rescued a Husky that was locked up for 3.5 years. And
I saw the photos of that.
It was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
Oh, it was. I just saw its nails being clipped. That was
nails
enough
they were like talons. I mean, I can't believe that they went that long. And to watch him walk, you see him take a few steps out of the cage in the video that we recently posted, and he's very cautious, because it hurts. It hurts
and just
to step,
and
he doesn't know that type of feeling.
Yeah.
Besides just walking around in a cage that barely, was big enough for his own body. And so those types of situations. The owner was given the dog 3.5 years ago, and they never really wanted it, and so they kept it in this cage this entire time. There was absolutely no food or water. Its water bowl was not with any type of
liquid.
It was actually
no sustenance whatsoever.
It was actually feces that was in there, and I am shocked that the Husky, who we named Liberty after we thought we could liberate him from his jail cell, so his name's Liberty. And so I don't know how Liberty is as sweet as he is, but he's very lovely, and immediately went to our hands and had no
just
problem.
Craving love, I imagine.
Had no problem with Ebony picking him up out of the cage. Immediately was okay with it.
Wow.
And didn't fight it. And it just shows you that dog just wanted help, and it's really unfortunate.
And what was the response from the owner? Like, I mean, Do you have much of a? Do you interact much with the owner at that point, or do you just kind of go, look, we're taking the dog, and just
there
let
was
us
actually
do it, back off?
Two brothers who know the owner finally got to the point where they said this dog is going to die, and they reported it to Balinese brothers, and they asked us for help because they have seen recent postings on Facebook and on Instagram and other social media with us rescuing other dogs, and they saw us up at Mount Agoon, and they said they seem to be a really nice charity, and you know, maybe we should reach out to them, and they did, and it's they're very concerned. They call every day to Ebony and ask her how he's doing now, and I think we will ultimately be able to rehome Liberty with the brothers that reported it. Yeah, they're younger and they're absolutely just lovely Balinese.
That's great that they keep checking in.
Yeah.
So, but what is the initial process in terms of arriving at someone's house and saying, look, we need to see your dog and we need to look after it? Because
it depends.
I imagine someone, even if they don't like the dog or they treat the dog with disrespect, I imagine when someone confronts them on that, it's also a shame issue for them because they don't want to admit that they've done wrong by an animal, and it's hard. Yeah,
it's hard. You know, I think overall the Balinese culture is very loving and very caring towards animals, and you know, I think they really do want the best. I think sometimes it's just a lack of understanding, not with everybody, because my goodness, our staff who is Balinese, they're some of the best that you'll ever meet here. They will go out of their way above and beyond to help all the animals, and we've met so many here that just adore our dogs and adore any other animal and want to be able to help. Sometimes it just is a lack of understanding. So one of the programs that we do have through BARC is educating, and we have somebody who goes into schools of all ages and goes and talks to the students and educates them on treatment and that it's okay to pet a dog, it's okay to be around a dog, and how to properly treat them and how to care for them and what to also pay attention to that would maybe mean that they need some medicine. And so we do have a dog that goes to those the education days. The name is Sari, the Bali dog, but she was a rescue from a puppy on up, and so she gets to go and show the children and sometimes high school ages that you can be around a dog and she's not going to attack you, and it's okay.
Yeah, sure. So, and how many staff with BARC? I guess it's volunteers and staff and...
Yeah, there's a lot of people who help. Because people come in on holidays and they come in and they just want to cuddle the dogs that are there, and they ultimately end up helping, whether it's feeding time or something like that. They help our staff, give bowls, and they help, give baths to some of the puppies or the older dogs. They'll take dogs for walks, which is a huge help to our staff because we just don't have enough there at all times. But
I imagine any hand on board is a good hand.
Yeah, it's great to have all hands on deck.
So when you were actually, you're in a pretty dangerous zone, and you're literally risking your life. I mean, to go up and save all these dogs.
Oh, Agoon.
Yeah, for Agoon, when those warnings are hitting, I was up there. How far away? How far away were we, Phil? 20 kilometres away from the danger zone. I mean, we were up in Ahmed, Phil and I, and up there doing some music and glancing over at the volcano and sort of feeling all the tremors. I mean, there were some solid tremors. They were so strong that every half an hour for a while there. Yeah. And it felt like the whole island was shaking. And
it's a little unsettling.
A little unsettling.
It really is.
I mean, it just runs adrenaline through your body.
Yeah.
I mean, and we were that far away. Like for you guys, you were literally 1 kilometre.
Right? So when we first started, we were a lot more cautious. And so we were kind of around the 12 to 9 kilometer area. And then we edged our way up to 6 kilometer. By the end of the first week, we were anywhere from 9 to 1 kilometer. And so most feedings ultimately ended up up until recently, ended up being 6 to 1 kilometer at all times.
I imagine, when you're in the thick of it and you're just doing your job, obviously you don't want to think about it. You just want to go, I'm just doing my job. Let's not even go too hard on talking about it. But as far as people volunteering and wanting to come and help in that situation, did you have some, how do you decide? Like, is it really just completely up to the person on the spot, their decision to take that risk? Or are you sort of going, I don't know if you're fit for this?
No.
This could be a bit intense? Or?
Yeah, I think what's nice with my background, coming from my career before, is that I dealt with crisis work, and it made, I think, my judgment, I felt I knew what I was walking into and I felt okay with it, but we did have many offers for people to go up and help volunteer, and BARC really needed help with drivers and taking food up there, and also helping with getting animals down from up there. And we had some awesome people who reached out and helped with that. What BARC was a little bit more cautious with was whether or not somebody would actually be on the ground street feeding. Because
on the ground, what's right?
Street feeding the dogs up there. And because we were up to 1 kilometer away, and there is no way you can get around the fact that if the volcano erupts, that's just the way it is. You're there. So there's no way you can run, and there's no way you can drive fast. So were you checking
into, were you calling home and telling your parents where you were at, and making sure everyone knew you were safe at the end of the day? I mean,
that happened.
What was going on there? I imagine your mum was just like,
Yeah, my mom was not happy.
Can you just chill out and go lie on a beach and just...
My mom was like, is there a reason why you need to go? But my mom last year came to visit here and spent some time at BARC.
Oh, nice.
And she saw that she knows where my heart lies, and she knew pretty much what I was going to be doing, and she knew there was no argument. I did get some very concerned messages from family, but at the end of the day, everybody supported it, and they knew that if something happened, that I was okay with it. And that they needed to be okay with it also, and it's a sad moment to have that conversation, but at the same time, I felt relieved that I could say that I was in a good place and knew what I was doing, and I knew that I was happy making sure I was taking care of some dogs up there, along with BARC and along with Jan and the other.
I kind of imagine you've. Even through the rehabilitation stuff back in Chicago, I imagine you've been under some form of risk before. I mean, I'm sure there's people you've dealt with where there's been an amount of risk, where something could go wrong. I mean, just being in that close proximity to someone who's got a lot of grief in their life and all that kind of thing, and things can go any way sometimes. Right. At some points, yeah.
So no, it was a good thing at the end. We were able to street feed many dogs up there and evacuate many that needed the immediate attention. For instance, there was a pit bull. His name is Danger, so kind of fitting.
You named him Danger, or he was already called Danger?
The name Danger came from the owner.
Oh, right.
But the owner evacuated, and it was...
You're Danger, I'm out of here.
Yeah. But the pit bull was running with all the other Bali dogs up there.
Yeah.
He loves life up there, but he had something wrong with his eyes. It's called cherry eye, and it needed a surgery, but the owner obviously needed to evacuate too. And so we ultimately were able to have contact with the owner, and they gave us permission to take him and help with the surgery.
Oh, nice.
And so Jan had that contact, and then they ended up taking BARC there, and we were able to rescue him and take him down to a place called Sunset Vet in Ubud, an excellent place that we work with often. And they did the surgery, and he had about little over a week just rehab and relaxing away from a goon.
Chilling out for Danger.
Yeah. And so then he went back, and the owner was there after they lifted the evacuation notices, and the levels went down to 3. And just the pictures of Danger seeing his owner again,
Yeah, right, yeah.
he is just happy. He's rubbing himself all over her, and you can just see the love.
You must get a lot of those moments, seeing the reconnection between an animal and its owner.
Great.
And what's the situation up there now? I mean, a lot of the alerts dropped. It's still on 3, is it? Or
it's on 3 currently.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Yes.
So are you seeing a lot of? Were you actually seeing people still there while you were going up?
Yes.
And what do you do in that situation? How do you convince someone to leave when you're there?
You don't. Because
you understand their position.
Yes.
Sure.
Because as most people do know with Bali here, that you have villages and you have compounds, and they protect each other. The Banjars, the Pechalan, they protect each other. So what they did in a lot of the villages was rotate who would be there. And a lot of times you wouldn't see women and children still in the village, but sometimes you would see families still there, and then you would find out that they were there for a certain amount of days, and then it would rotate to another family would come in to pretty much monitor their village and make sure that everything was okay.
I guess too, I mean, just all the other livestock. Are you looking after other livestock, or just going through the... just focusing on dogs and cats? And
we were able to
pets?
help with getting some cows to a shelter, and then also go help feed some chickens up there and some pigs.
Yeah, right. So, and is anyone else sort of responsible? Is that really just the farm owners, the village people's responsibility, getting back and feeding their livestock? I mean, I guess that's a big pull for them to go back up to the village. Is that
a lot of them asked for help. And when they knew that the animal rescue, the emergency groups were there, they did reach out and ask for help, and it was provided. We had a lot of donations for cow feed and chicken feed and pig feed, and to be able to help them. And we had a great blue scooter that was able to help. It's this big caged scooter that somebody donated to help transport some things for the cows in the shelters, and it was nice to be able to have that the community pull together for that.
Yeah, nice. And so what are your thoughts now? You've been in Bali for a little while. I mean, this is pretty hectic work, and I imagine it's all consuming as well as being satisfying. Do you feel like you've settled into Bali for life now, or it's another section of your life for a while, or you have no idea?
I have no idea.
The look in your eyes says, I don't know. I don't know what's happening in 1 hour from now.
What's today? I have no idea.
What day is it? What are we drinking next?
What month are we in? I have no idea. No, I don't know. I get to hang out with some pretty awesome people every day, and who are extremely passionate, and I love that. It's very difficult to find that, and I'm lucky that they allow me to hang out with them.
Sure.
And that they, think I'm not a complete nut job who just loves dogs as much as they do.
We're all nut jobs to some capacity.
So it's
you gotta hold on to it.
I own
Use it. Use it for good.
Yes. So I'm pretty lucky that I get to do that.
Yeah, nice.
And it's something that for now, this is what I really enjoy doing. It's made me happier than the career that I had before. The career was a job. As much as it was passion, it was a job. And this isn't a job for me. This is me being allowed to, go and help. And that is something I am grateful for, being here.
Did you even imagine ever that you'd end up in Bali? I mean,
No.
When was the first time you ever heard of Bali? I mean, because it's not exactly the most well-known place when it comes to the States. I think it's getting popularity now.
Yeah.
But it's literally the other side of the world.
Right. So, Americans are very very used to hearing, Mexico, Caribbean, those types. Yeah. Not Bali. And when I would say Bali, it was very confusing. And when I would say Indonesia, someone would say India. And I'm like, no, Indonesia. But I think some still think that.
Yeah,
I know people who don't know where Indonesia is and think it's Middle East. and I try to correct, and it's really difficult.
Sure.
But so I don't know like when the first time was, but I remember the first time knowing that I knew somebody living here, and it really intrigued me. And I wanted to be able to experience what they were experiencing someday. And it took me, about 8 or 9 months, and that person wasn't living here anymore, but I still was like, oh, I'm going to make the trip. And I did it. And
so it was just a holiday based on curiosity.
it was an absolute random, I think this is what I'm going to go do for a month. And I did, and loved it. And I broke my knee when I was here, got in a scooter accident. I had Bali belly, thought I was going to die.
Oh, really? How long were you here for? 2 days?
Right. It happened right away, the first hour.
48 hours.
No problem.
The hangover part 10.
Yeah, it really sucked. But I had some incredible people who just really took care of me while I was here, locals and just other tourists. And I couldn't believe that. I was a little bit shocked that so many people were so willing to help when I was, not doing well and I was hurt, and it made me still want to move here.
It's a pretty strong story here. Like, it's a strong thread that runs within a lot of people's experiences here. Is like, a lot of people I know have had these horrific moments. Everything's pretty chaotic here, and everything's exaggerated. The roads are packed with motorbikes. There's the risk of coming off a bike when you're just starting to ride one, and in this environment is pretty high. So a lot of people have the classic Bali scar with a burn on the leg, let alone breaking a leg or or whatever it is. But generally, sure, a few people will go home and say, "Oh, look, that was the worst holiday I've ever had. I can't go back." But I find that more often people find the same experience as you. They get so surrounded by love and help and people looking after them in that position that they form bigger bonds, and they find that there's just something here that just grabs them, and then they're like, I never want to leave. I want to come back and do it again. Beat the broken leg.
Yeah.
Stay.
Never mind the fact you can't walk, but come back. No problems.
Yeah. It's a strong theme. I mean, it really grabs you, and obviously Bali's just gotten under your skin and.
Yeah, it did.
All around, you love it.
I really had no idea what I was going to do when I decided to pack up and come here, officially. But, it just kind of unfolded.
So it really was a one-way ticket. Like, you literally just went.
Yep.
That's a huge step. I love it.
I just want to go do something. So why not move halfway around the world?
Yeah, sure. Did you have other sort of stops on the way that you were thinking about? You just went Bali, that's it?
Yeah, I just figured might as well go for it. Forget it. Who cares?
Nice.
And so that was it. And with the rescues, I started helping some dogs that I found, and eventually, I had one rescue that I was reaching out for a few different private rescuers and the big rescues here, and was asking for help. And
this is you were just on your own, rescuing dogs just out of your own.
I just would find like, here's a puppy that needed help. Here's here's another dog that needed help, and so I had one that needed immediate help and more than what I think I was able to provide at that time. And the only organization that got back to me was BARC. And so that's what got me involved with them. And after I started, offering to come in and help and do things and, watch the dogs and take off ticks and do all the dirty work.
You were just drawn in further and further.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's get dirty. So, but I got to see what they do, and I was completely in awe of all the help that they give. And so rather than me trying to do anything on my own, I was like, this is so much easier to work with them.
Works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, your love for helping and your enthusiasm and all that kind of stuff is going to help them in a huge way, and their support network and their access and facilities and all that is going to help you with what you want to do. So it's a pretty good relationship.
Yes, I like them. I can't lie. They're awesome.
So if someone wants to hear about BARC, donate to BARC, what's the process? What's the website? What do they do?
So if somebody wants to come in, we're located in Ubud, and we are open every day. 10 to 5. Walk-ins. You don't have to make an appointment. You can just come on in and check it out and get some cuddles and give some affection. BARC welcomes that because the dogs need social interaction. I can walk in there sometimes and there are, 10 people, 10 tourists, locals, anybody just all sitting there in the middle of the floor cuddling, 20 puppies.
Yeah,
and
wow.
it's so
and
awesome.
you adopt out, right? Like
yes. So
that's
when
part
we,
of the process
yeah,
of
so
rehabilitation?
it's, rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome. And even if we don't have the ability to rehome some dogs, because there are just some that aren't the most adoptable, we still provide them a lifelong shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do have a sanctuary that cares for them. And we are a no-kill place. BARC is not a place that believes in euthanizing to make room. BARC does not euthanize just to have a better budget. So that's something that myself and a lot of other people who believe in them, that's what they really like.
That's good. Life is good. Living is good. It's a lot better than not living.
Yes, yes.
I believe in that. I support that cause.
I agree. So no, but they really do everything that they can for the animals. And, there's so many 3-legged ones or, a few paralyzed ones that, are just happier than pigs and poop. They really are. Speaking of that, the sanctuary, there are 3 pigs up there also.
Nice.
So that have been rescued. And
you rescued some pigs as well?
Yeah, 3. They're so funny. And then there's also
pretty smart pigs.
Yeah,
they're pretty intelligent creatures.
Ebony loves her pigs up there. She really does. They have a special place in her heart. So, and Wally, Raffi, and Romeo, I believe. So, and then we also have monkeys that have been. There's the only open air sanctuary area for rehabilitating monkeys is at BARC Sanctuary.
Yeah, wow.
So it's quite an incredible thing that they've managed to build. And again, rescuing and, being able to help them and make sure that they keep that wild nature in them and not interact as much with
And the things
humans.
like the monkeys go back into the wild after you've rehabilitated them, or that's a little bit too risky?
It depends, and it depends on where they have to release eventually. But that's determined down the road. At this time, right now it's just really working on getting them rehabilitated because some of them have come in extremely injured, and the people who have been working with them and monitoring them. They've done an incredible job, and they're definitely maintaining their wild nature rather than trying to domesticate. And because once you domesticate them, you can't they can't go back into the wild. So they've done a great job, and making sure that they keep within a family unit and understand that, and not having the human interaction at all times, which is great for them.
Yeah, nice.
So it's really good.
Well, thanks for coming up on the rooftop. It's been awesome having you up here. The sun is setting behind us. I think we've got the last little pink rays poking its head out before we get attacked by moths and swallow half the night sky. Cari, been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. November.
And, Mr. November, anemic November, yes. My mum's going to love it. Ladies and mungais, please check out BARC and get to Ubud and say hello to these beautiful animals when you can. And we're going to wrap up the Bali Rooftop for tonight. Adios.
Thank you.